Hi, this is Lily Gaylor, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of the United Way of Southern Chester County. And I work to facilitate grants for nonprofits and schools and so on in the area. And I'd like to walk through the basic application process. If you're an agency, a nonprofit agency, organization, school, a religious organization, pretty much all of these rules apply. During the audio, I'll be walking through this PowerPoint with you, describing how to write a grant and so on. But also, I'm going to talk to you about how to apply for a grant online as well, because so many grants now are not done in the traditional method, but are done over the web. And they're a little bit different. So we'll talk about that. So let's move on now to the first page, and we'll talk about the 4 steps to a grant request. So we've got the research, contacting the organization, writing up the grant, and then responding, whether or not it's a yes or a no to your request. For research, what I mean by that is you have to define what your organization is about. You know who you are, but you have to be able to disseminate that information to whomever you're trying to get money from. So let's say, for example, let's say mission statement. You need to have a mission statement which talks about what your organization is all about, what you exist for. If you don't have a mission statement, take some time and create one. So let's say you don't have one. How are you going to start to create one? Well, the best way is to find out another organization just like yourselves. Let's say you're the United Way, for example. The United Way of Southern Chester County has a very good mission statement, and it's right here on this page that you can access, actually. Or let's say you're an educational institution. You will Google another educational institution and figure out their mission statement. You use those words and try to define yourself, because it's really important. You cannot try to convince someone to give you any money for your projects unless they know who you are. The part of also who you are is how long have you been around. They have to know that you haven't started this year. They have to know that if they're going to give you money to support your project or your idea, that you're not going to go away in 6 months' time. They have to know where you're located. So that, in fact, they serve that particular area, or that they have some association with the location that your agency is located at. How many people do you serve? That's a given. Again, looking at the United Way of Southern Chester County, any of their information that they use that is located on the web, you'll see how they talk about the people that they serve, the community that they serve, how they break it down to school districts, to the agencies that are served, and so on. Make yourself familiar with that kind of language when you're coming up with the definition for your organization. Define the need for support. So let's talk about, now that you've defined who you are, let's define what you need the money for. So again, this seems very easy when you're obviously trying to support some particular project or program, but you have to make it in terms that the grantor will understand. So write it down just like you would an introductory essay in high school. What will this program or project, what have you, what will it do? Make sure you have a sentence or 2 sentences. Who will it serve? What is the population? What is the benefit, long-term and short-term? It isn't something for just 1 second. I mean, you need to see what is the long-term benefit. How long will whatever this is last? What will the impact be on the community? What will it be? What will the impact of this grant be on your organization? And then you have to explain in terms that a grantor would understand what exactly your project is. And they use expressions like seed money, capital campaign, operations support. So you have to figure out what category that comes under. Seed money is a sort of a blanket term for startup funds. Startup funds that will, like a seed, grow into a much more far-reaching either program or project. So it's the startup funds needed to make something really grow. Capital funds means building, and that can be loosely interpreted. Capital funds means something concrete, basically. It can mean furniture, that sort of thing, but usually it means building. And building can be like an outdoor classroom, something outside. It just doesn't have to be inside. And operational support, which is really the toughest money to get from a grant, is really everything that keeps the inner workings of an agency running. So that can mean payroll, electricity, plumbing, not plumbing, sorry, that's actually capital, but operation is what basically keeps it going. And it's not really a very sexy thing for a grantor to give money to. So you have to be very specific. If you're asking for operational support, you have to show that you have the money in the future to keep going, because they don't want to give you money to keep you going for 6 months and then have to ask for it again. So operational support isn't such a great thing to ask for grant money. Anyway, describe the project or item and cite outside sources. Okay, so let's say you figured out who you are, you described the project and the ramifications of that project on your organization and on the community that you're in. And you have to describe then to them, let's say if you want funding for a specific thing, how much money it costs, and that you've looked around a lot to figure out what are the best cost for this particular thing. Let's say, for example, you're just trying to get some money for 10 computers in your agency. Well, that means that you've been on the web and you have at least 3 or 4 different choices of computers that would fit your circumstances, and you're not asking them for the most expensive thing. So research your comparable costs. Show that you've done some homework, because otherwise it just looks like you're asking for a quick handout, and they want to know that you've put some time into this. And if you can, enclose a photo. Needless to say, this you cannot do over the web. If you're doing a web grant application, you're not going to be putting in any photos, that sort of thing. But you want to be very, very specific, and you want to have a website that you can cite as for cost comparison, the best place to buy whatever it is that you're trying to ask for money for. Okay, let's see. Research your grant sources. Now, we've described who you are, what it is you want, and who you're going to affect, and what that project or program is going to affect in your organization. Now we have to see the other side of it. Researching the best place that will give you the money. So the grantor. This sounds kind of simple, but to be honest, start with who you know. Let's say your organization is located in a community that has a grocery store, a lawyer's office, banking office, whatever, that is very close to you, that you serve people in the community that is the same people that these organizations serve, see if they have a website and they issue grants. If you don't feel comfortable going on the website and checking and you can't find the information that you're seeking, go to the bank and say, do you give out local grants? That sort of thing. It's who you really, and if you actually know someone, a name to attach to it, that's the best thing possible. And if you don't know, if you don't feel comfortable with that, well, look at other organizations similar to you. And then luckily, you know, a long time ago, we didn't have the web to be able to search these things. You had to go to foundation libraries. But now you can just check on the web. Let's say you're a, I don't know, you're a daycare center, and you want some funding, and you want local funding. Well, Google up another local daycare center or daycare center in general and see where their funding comes from, because all that stuff has got to be public information. See if you can find out if there's anybody similar to you, figure out who's giving them money, and they might give you money as well. And then there is, of course, there is a foundation directory web source that we're linked to here at the United Way of Southern Chester County. There are a lot of different ways, but you're very fortunate really to have a web that can zero in on some really great resources. But really the best one is who are your neighbors, who do you know, and then after that, what other organization is similar to you? And so then make a list. Make a list of, say, because you don't want to waste your time. Let's say you make a list of, say, 5, 10 places that you think would be interested in giving money to an organization like yours. That's great. That's your template. You're gonna write a grant, and you're gonna write a grant to each one of those places. Now, again, this is a traditional grant. This isn't over the web, because web, they don't probably want you to contact them too much. But let's say you're writing a traditional grant. You already know, you know who you want to contact. You know the company, because you've already know that either they're friends of yours or they give to companies like yours, organizations like yours. You call them up, and then you ask if company whatever is accepting new grants, and then you just start a conversation. And if you're too nervous to do that, you just try to get as much information as you can out of them, and make sure to ask for the person's name. I know that sounds kind of silly, but if you don't have that person's name, you can't be sure that you're going to be sending information then to the right person. You have to have that connection. There has to be that sort of human connection. So anyway, let's see, what else? Write an introductory letter. Yeah, this is true. You have to write an introductory letter. And you clip it onto your grant request, because the company will send you the forms probably, or you'll get them off the internet now. And you'll fill them out with all the required information, talking about your organization, the project that you're requesting funds for, and all that sort of stuff. But in a traditional grant, where you really get personal with whoever it is, the company, is a very short introductory letter that says some of the same stuff. It says about your project request, what company what organization you're with, but it also, this is the step 3B, it gives you, I don't know, a chance to get a little bit more personal with them, really, and it's a way for you to market the idea that it is a really great partnership between you and this particular company, and it just takes it out of the sphere of just you asking them for money. It becomes a more personal way for you to partner with this company. So let's look at the step 3B, the grant proposal overview. Subject, yeah. Okay, so that's your basic format. If you were looking at, let's say this is a essay for English 101, this is sort of what your essay is supposed to look like. The introductory paragraph, the subject, your audience. It's very important. Who is your audience? What the money? What's the money for? What is the money? How much money are we talking about, and what does it pay for? Accountability. Let's just go through it. I have different screens for this stuff. Into a paragraph, again, briefly describes your project and the monies needed. This is for a traditional grant. Now, it behooves you to write something like up this, even if you're going to do just a web grant, because they ask for this information, but not necessarily in this order. You should have, let's say, step 3B, the writing of a grant request. This is absolutely true for a traditional grant. If you're typing it out on Word and you're sending it out to somebody or faxing it to somebody. But if you're doing a web grant, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be utilizing very short paragraphs that deal with exactly the same specific information. What you're allowed to do in a more traditional grant request is you're allowed to write a lot more. So you can use a lot more filler. But in web requests, you, let's say if you're going to over the internet and you have a grant request that you download, generally speaking, they're counting your words, they're counting your punctuation, and in some very awful circumstances, they're actually counting your spaces. So you need to be very succinct in the way you describe your organization, describe the project, and describe basically anything that they're asking for. You have to be very, very short in your word choice. And be very, very careful and particular to count and count again and then count again, because if you have too many words or too many spaces allotted, then your grant request gets trashed. It doesn't matter how great a request it is. So anyway, those are the pitfalls of doing a grant request over the internet. But anyway, but that's how most things are done now. However, let's go back to this more traditional grant request. Again, this is just the information as you write it out. Just make sure that you have all of these things in mind when you're writing it up. In financial accountability, let's see if I talk about it more. Let's see. Well, okay, let's talk about financial accountability for a second here. What that means is when you want to, it's a funny thing to write a grant request because you're asking them for money because you obviously don't have it. But at the same time, you have to show that you are financially accountable to be a secure enough organization to give them that money. And so, in other words, a grant, it's a funny thing you're juggling. You have to show that you need it, but you also have to show that you really don't need it long term. And so it's really great to, instead of looking for a handout, you should be really looking for a partnership. And if you think of it in terms of when you write your request in terms of looking for a partner, I think that you will be more successful. Because again, these grantors receive hundreds and thousands of requests, and they need to know that you are stable enough to not need more money very close down the road. So financial accountability is very important. But then, of course, you can't start bragging about how incredibly financially successful you are, and yet you still need money, because that doesn't sound quite right either. So there's a bit of a balancing act that you have to be able to walk. But again, if you, in my experience, if you see it in terms of a partnership as opposed to just a donation, I think that you'll be better off. Writing the actual grant, of course, as I said, and this is for a web grant. I shouldn't say web grant, but this is for on the internet as well as in the traditional paper form of grant. You have to delineate the costs, but very clearly. You can't just say it's about $2,000. Well, that won't do it, because that means you haven't done your homework, and then they won't like that. What you have to do is you itemize each thing, or whatever it may be, and get it down to the cent of what you need, so that it shows that you've put time and attention. And frankly, it would be really good too if you show that you have looked elsewhere for funds or tried to come up with the funds on your own. But again, they do not really like the idea of you just asking for a handout. You have to show that you've actually worked pretty hard and that you just need this extra bit to really call it a deal. So in the costs, just make sure that you are very clear about every single thing that you need and that you haven't stretched the truth. With the attachments, you need to show that you are a tax-exempt organization. For most of the organizations, agencies that are hearing this, that means that you're a 501c3 certification organization. So you just usually have to attach your 503, or you have to give in your tax-exempt ID number. I also raise money for schools and so on, and schools simply have they know what that particular tax-exempt number is. You have to have that. You either have to have a copy of the actual paperwork, which is just one copy, it's one page, or you have to have access to that particular number. And again, there's the mission statement, which I talked about earlier. If there's an official description of your organization, some larger organizations will have this. That's also a good thing to add. And then these are simply attachments. And again, with over the internet, a lot of these things can't happen, which is too bad, because they really help you become more personal to them. But any press releases, let's say you're a food bank, and that's regular press, usually during Thanksgiving time or what have you. It's really great to be able to have a stockpile of those so that you can send them out to potential donors. It just, again, it shows your activity in the community and that people are aware of your existence. And that is a good thing for a grantor. Okay, wow, yeah, proofread with a friend. I cannot emphasize that enough. It sounds like it's just one extra little task, but what happens is most people that are writing these grants are so tied into the particular project or the particular program or the agency that they're with that they don't really see it from an outsider's point of view, a grantor's point of view. So it's really terrific to have somebody's eyes on it. Just to sort of, not just spell check and all that, but just to see how it flows and how you really are selling yourself. Because really you're kind of marketing yourself to this organization. Okay, so then after you've got the proofread back, finale, check off your checklist, need list counts. In other words, make sure that say the word count is correct, that you have your introductory letter, that you have all the attachments, that every single thing is in order, and then check it again. And I put in this because I've actually done this wrong twice. After all that work, double check again that the typed address on the front of your envelope where you're mailing out this grant is correct, and that you have the proper name and title of the recipient, and that you have the proper amount of postage. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it is incredibly important, and after you've done so much work to make this wonderful grant, you want to make sure that it gets delivered to the right person. And frankly, it is much, much better if that is actually handed to somebody in the company. If you're working through a friend who happens to work at the bank or whatever that you're sending this grant to, have them personally take it in. It's an extra step, but it assures that it's gotten to the right place, and again, it puts that sort of extra personal air to it. Now, let's say the date has come around and you haven't heard from them. Well, you give them a call and say, whatever. Usually if it's over the internet, they might just give you, sorry, you didn't get it, or yay, you got it. In any case, whether if it's a yes or a no, you call them back. Even if it's over the internet, you call them back personally and say, thank you so much for reviewing this, and we're sure to be sending in something in again at your next review period. And it just doesn't matter, no matter what, thank them because they have reviewed you, they've thought about it, and there might be, if they said a no, there might be something so simple that you didn't do, that you didn't know to do. And this is the time for information exchange. Likewise, I mean, if you're the sort of person who feels comfortable with talking with people you don't know, I would also, before you send out that grant, make sure if there's anything particular that you want, if they want you to talk about in your grant request, make sure that you've figured out what that is and that you've included it in your grant request. Actually, I don't know if I already talked about that or not. Yeah, actually I should have said something about that before. That when you're writing up your request and you're trying to make sure that the grantor is the sort of company that will give out money to you, look over their website and see the kind of companies that they give, agencies that they give money to, and kind of take some of their language. Like if they say we like to give to diverse organizations, make sure that, well, first of all, you're diverse, but also that you use that exact word. If they say that they like to enable the community to do whatever, then make sure that you say very clearly, you actually use the wording that they have used on their website, that your program enables the community to do whatever. I mean, don't lie, but make sure to use the same words, because that is exactly what they're looking for. And if they're looking for through thousands of grants, they will pick out yours because you have checked some of the boxes that they're looking for. Okay, so let's look at summation here. Grant request demonstrates the value of a project. It demonstrates good financial procedures and organizational stability, even though you do not have the money for this project. And that again goes back to the partnership idea. You have to show that you need money, probably desperately, but that you're also financially stable enough not to constantly need money in the future. You have to show that you've really probably been around for more than 2 years. That's usually a requirement, to be honest. If you haven't, I mean, then you're eliminating certain grantors. But you just have to show, and also good financial procedures includes when you're asking them for money, make sure to account for every single dime that you're asking them for. Again, never ask a grantor for $1,000, $2,000, something rounded like that without any clear delineation of where you want those funds to be spent. And you need to create a story that creates a funding partnership. Yep, that's true. I've already said that. Sorry, just reading it. They also have a limited amount of money to give out. Yes, and this is something I play on both sides of the fence. I also give out money, and the thing is, there's a limited amount of resources that you have to donate money, and there are people hired in a seat looking through your grant applications, and you want them to go, oh my gosh, this is just what we're here for. But they have a limited amount. They don't have millions and millions and millions, generally speaking. They have whatever they have, but it's a finite amount of money. And they want to see that you're just the reason that they are there spending their time giving away their money. They're also, let's say if this is a small hometown business, something like that, they have worked very, very hard, and they might have only 5 to 10 organizations that they're going to give money to, and they want to feel like that is a very special thing that they're doing for that organization. So keep them in mind, not just your needs, but step back a bit and think about what it's like for the company or corporation, how they feel when they're looking at your grant and how they feel about giving you the money. So make sure, just like a great gift at a holiday, thank you so much, this is incredible, and so on. Make sure that they feel that they're partnered with this whole thing. And you'll be a lot more successful if you see it in terms of that rather than a handout. Oh wow, that's it. So if you have questions, which I'm sure you do, or you want to say have somebody's eyes on your grant request, there's always somebody at the United Way of Southern Chester County that will help you out. Call that main number on the line that's on the screen here, and they'll put you in touch with me or somebody else that'll walk you through either the current grant request that you're working on or your mission statement or whatever it is. Grant requests are a terrific way for you to get money for your organization. And it's a new way of thinking, too, because there's so many places set up now that are ready to help organizations just like you. But you have to research to find out who they are. You have to make a very clear statement about who you are, and you've got to ask. Well, good luck, and maybe I'll be talking to you soon.